Up at 8,000 feet, it's easy to breathe hard. I told this story to a friend, and he said it was a useful story to tell, so it's fitting. I was hiking with a friend in the mountains. Different mountains. Very different mountains than this one. Very lush, thick, green, moist. And he was a person who has spent a lot of time working on his relationship with, I guess, nature spirits. We're in this forest, and he tells me that he's always felt like a trespasser in nature. And he is somebody who was born in New York City and has lived his entire life in New York City, except a year or two in London. He's a city person. And I said, well, you are a trespasser, but you don't have to be. You really get to make that choice. You really do. And he's on a shamanic path, which, of course, it's an ancient path, which means it's a natural path. It's a nature path. He's a city guy. And he feels like a trespasser in nature. And we're walking in the forest. And part of the express reason we're there is to harvest some tree fungus, specifically shelf fungus. It was non-specific, but one of his shaman friends told him that if you use dried shelf fungus, you don't need to use charcoal. You can put it in a bowl to smudge people, like burning sage or cedar or resins. So we were looking for some, and we came to some along a path. It was right there on the path. It was beautiful, like 3 or 4 big shelf funguses coming off of a tree that had been cut, that had fallen over the log, or fallen over the trail. So some trail keepers had cut with the chainsaw, cut the log in half. So it was rotting, and the shelf fungus were eating it. And he was like, oh, there's some right there. And he went to break it off. And I said, this is a way you can practice not being a trespasser in nature. Because we come here on this trail as guests in this forest, and all of us are guests in this forest. And if you break off this fungus right here, then you take away the situation for others to be able to walk along this trail and see this beautiful grouping of shelf fungus. You create a disparity, you create a break. It would look ugly. But I said if you walk 5 feet off the trail at pretty much any point that's not right on the trail, you'll find shelf fungus. And so he's like, oh, okay. And I said, just be on the lookout for it. So we walked, and the trail got really muddy. And I tend to hike barefoot. Although I was not naked at the time, I was hiking barefoot. And he decided he was going to turn around because it was too muddy for him. He was wearing shoes. And I said, okay, I'll meet you back at the car. And he said, no rush, take your time. So I walked for probably another half hour. And I kind of got to a point where I was like, okay, I'm going to turn around and go back. And I was walking back to the car. And I got to the place where we had this conversation about the shelf fungus. And I noticed one of them was broken off. And it was really disappointing. And it was hurtful. And it made me angry and sad. I didn't say anything. When I got back to the car, I waited until I wanted to see if I could find that exact mushroom. And indeed I did. And maybe he broke off like 3. Maybe it was like 5 of them and he broke off like 3 of them. Because I remember there were a couple on the dashboard or the back of the car. I saw them. And I was like, oh. And I said, so you're a trespasser? And he just looked at me. And I was like, after we had that conversation, you chose to be a trespasser. And I mean, I always think that that's what friends are for. Friends are the people who remind us of the choices we can make. Like, you can be miserable, you can be unhappy, you can not be. I'm somebody who is miserable a lot, and I forget. I forget that I have the choice. But there's a billion choices all the time, so it's really easy to forget. And so we have compassion with our friends. You know, I remember he was very hurt when I told him he was a trespasser, and I tried to point that out to him, and he didn't want to talk about it. He was very hurt. But you know, if we willingly hurt our friends by hurting the world around us, and really even hurting ourselves, violating our own path, how is that ever beneficial? You know, so I told this story to my friend up here because we're on Mount Shasta and it's gorgeous, and he said, that's a very important story. A lot of people should hear that story. A lot of people would benefit from that story. And I said it reminded me of this song that I love, that it's just like a silly dance song called Kids by a band called MGMT. And you know, it's like singing about kids, and the lyrics are all very disjointed, like pulling insects off plants, no time to think of consequences. Enjoy yourself, take only what you need from it. A family of trees wanting to be haunted. And you know, when you're a little kid and you see a forest and you imagine all the dangers that are in there, you can't ever do that if there's no forest left. You might see a beautiful bug, you might want to pull it off a plant just to see what it's like. And you might kill it. No time to think of consequences. Right before I said that, a hummingbird just flew up and hit my ankle and then flew away. Maybe he thought I was a flower. I've had a very nice day, naked here on Mount Shasta. And I put clothes back on because it's getting cold. The sun is setting. I just found a little stream coming out of the mountain and drank from it. But I said, Mother, may I first? I'm just very grateful. I hope you're having a beautiful summer. Love you.